I'm not surprised that there was a delay. I think that the Supreme Court anticipates to release this the very last day of term. And I think that's a wise decision at this point, considering all of the threats and the overt attack and the attempt on Justice Kavanaugh's life. It makes a lot of sense that when there are already protesters who are coming to the Supreme Court on any day that it possibly could be released, it's likely in the best interests of the justice's security to just release this the very last day possible and then basically go into hiding for 3 months. And isn't this a terrible, disgusting, despicable thing, John, that the justices have to be so concerned about their own safety and security for simply following the U.S. Constitution? Nancy Pelosi is so flippant about the security, and so is AOC and the squad and the rest of the Democrats. It's absolutely disgusting that they wouldn't want security for a co-equal branch of government.
Yeah, and that's just, I mean, it's hard to hear, Jenna. And Brett, you know, the question is for you. I mean, did you ever anticipate we'd be in a position where the Supreme Court justices would have to issue a ruling and then run and hide because of the threats against them?
The political nature of this country and the division is resulting, I think, in terrible, terrible precedents and policy. And this is just a good example of it. The fact that the Supreme Court is now concerned and looking over their shoulder at rulings, and the fact that Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice has failed to enforce an existing law meant to protect and preserve the ability to keep these judges from being influenced or attempted to be influenced by the individual in this country. I mean, these are the types of things that the country should be turning attention to immediately, given the divide.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about specifically something that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, one of the 27 who voted against this security bill, what she said. Here it is, quote, "It's just preposterous how quickly this body will move to protect itself and how slowly we move to protect children and people in grocery stores." Obviously a reference to mass shootings and things like that. Jenna, is there any equivalency there?
Not at all. And this coming from the same AOC and the squad and the Democratic left that wanted to defund police, who would go and protect and respond to people in grocery stores and in schools. And so this is just more Democrat hypocrisy. And all they're trying to do is gun grab. And rather than understanding that there are millions of law-abiding American citizens who are safe gun owners, and that is a constitutionally protected right in this country, so she's simply doing these false equivalencies. She is just trying to make this overly politicized. And that's all that the Democrats want to do, is they want their preferred outcome regardless of the law, regardless of what the Constitution requires. And this is something that conservatives can't let them get away with. Instead of just being on the defense, as I've continued to say, we need to continue to go on offense and call them out and say, well, then where was your support for funding police officers to do their job in regular American cities?
Yeah, where's the consistency? I think that's the question a lot of Americans are asking, and we saw that in some of the primaries last night as well. But let's talk about this Merrick Garland news conference he's having today in Buffalo. We see the Attorney General there at the podium. We're monitoring this right now. Focusing on the supermarket shooting, the 18-year-old Brett now facing federal hate crime charges. I want to get your reaction to this update.
You know, John, I have been one that have advocated that, you know, the proliferation of the hate crimes, proliferation of the federal crimes, you know, the statutes in this country is really a result of politics. I mean, this is an individual who's going to spend the rest of their life in prison. This is an individual that, sure, if we want to, you know, we have the evidence there and we have the hate crime indictment, then good, pursue it. But the problem is you see Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice and the FBI seem to be picking and choosing which cases they're going to act quickly on, which ones they're going to apply the full force of the law on, and which ones they're trying to scuttle or to, you know, avoid having to deal with. And I take Hunter Biden as one particular example. This case should have been brought long ago, and there were multiple crimes that were fairly easy to bring to an indictment. So it seems, again, this is an appropriate indictment against this individual in Buffalo, but where is the consistency in the Department of Justice?
Yeah, Jenna, what do you think about that?
I agree with what Brett said 100%, and justice should never be politicized. And what you're seeing is that the Department of Justice is trying to score political points by going after some of these things that are furthering the Biden administration agenda, rather than being a function of law enforcement and equal protection under the law. And so when we look at what the politicized nature is of justice in this country, when we look at Peter Navarro in handcuffs while Michael Sussman goes free, and we see that you can't get a fair jury in DC, and you can't even get fair prosecutors, and you have these Soros-funded prosecutors, this isn't justice in the United States of America. This isn't due process. And while, yes, this is a good thing, of course, that Merrick Garland is going after this shooter that committed a heinous act, where is, as Brett said, the consistency?